Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video. I guess we're back to the plug side chat haunts. Gotta switch things up from time to time. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is a GM promotion that's come out with EVgo. Now Tyler over at the Average EV kind of mentioned this, and this first put it on my radar. I didn't actually get the notice myself, not through my EVgo app or anywhere else like that. But I think the reason for that was I already have a standing account with EVgo, and beyond just the pay as you go account, right? So with the pay as you go account, you don't have a monthly fee. You set up your account, you set up your billing, but you don't have a fee. The problem with that is that they also then have session fees. So not only are you paying the list price, you're also paying a session fee, which I'm not really a fan of. You know, it would be one thing if these charging providers were 100% reliable. It would also be another thing where maybe if they waived a session fee, if you have like back-to-back or subsequent recharges at the same location, they should have some sort of a flag that says, ooh, something probably went wrong with their first session. We should waive the session fee at that site moving forward for the next hour or whatever it is, right? So they should have that functionality, but they don't. You know, and this was really oppressive monetarily back when they had their arbitrary 30-minute or 45-minute session limits. So you pay 99 cents a session, and no matter what, 30 minutes later, you're done. And then you have to start again. So that was, I think, unnecessarily punitive. And I've just never been a fan of the session fees anyway, but EVgo still does maintain them. And so the main reason to really upgrade from a pay-as-you-go to the standing membership is to get rid of those. So I have the EVgo Plus. They also have an EVgo Plus Max. So that's a combination of no session fees and a reduction in your overall cost. So I think the EVgo Plus is like a 15% discount over, up to a 15% discount over the base rates that you see on the charger, displayed on the charger. And then the Plus Max is like a 30%, up to a 30% discount over the displayed fees that you see. So this GM promotion, though, it is not on top of any of these other existing plans. And so when I saw Tyler mention it, he basically had the question of whether it was worth it. And, you know, he's operating from, I think, a slightly different perspective than me. Apparently in his area, there aren't a lot of EVgo chargers, whereas here in California, they are very prevalent along travel corridors in major cities. There's a lot of EVgo. And of course, these promotional rates also ironically do not apply to the GM Energy Pilot Flying J, where you would think that would be the primary place where they would apply. So, you know, his question was, is it even worth it? Because it does not provide additional discounts over the existing plans, but it does provide a discount for GM owners, right? So I think it's up to a 10% discount off the price, and there's no monthly subscription. So is it worth it? Well, and you know, shout out to TK for sending me the screenshot, because he got the promo sent in the app. So just mentioning that, they also show that it eliminates session fees. So if you are not a paid member already for EVgo, in my opinion, that GM promotion is worth it, because the elimination of the session fees and a 10% discount is already on its surface maybe even a little bit better than the $6.99 a month EVgo Plus plan that eliminates the session fees and gives you up to a 15% discount. So you get slightly less discount, but you're not actually paying a monthly fee. But like I said, that big benefit is no session fees. And so that elimination of the session fees, I think, is worth it. So if you do own a GM EV, and especially if you're not necessarily a frequent user of EVgo charging, this is kind of an easy way to get a discount and not have to pay session fees and just have an account set up for if and when you do. So you don't get the discount, but having an EVgo account set up already is also what gives you like plug-in charge. So even at the Pilot Flying J locations, which if you're traveling are probably the more likely ones that you're going to use, it still sets that whole plug-in charge, pretty much seamless experience up. But in addition, if you use EVgo elsewhere, you don't have session fees and you get a 10% discount off their rates, which I do think is worth it. I mean, obviously it's going to be up to the individual. I know a lot of people who really never DC fast charge, or like I said, if there are very few EVgo's in their area, the EVgo's that are in their area aren't convenient, or are some of like the 8, 10, 12-year-old chargers that aren't reliable. I get it. You probably don't need this plan. But if you are interested in using EVgo from time to time, or it does make sense, I think this is actually a good plan. And what I don't know, like, because again, they don't stack, and I think that was the whole reason, because I was a paid plan. They didn't even send me the promotion. I also wonder if some Bolt EV owners are just being overlooked, because most of these promotions seem to be for Ultium. So I don't, like, if I didn't have my current plan, I would sign up, I think, for the GM plan, just because it eliminates the monthly fee and eliminates the session fee. So you're paying a little bit more per kilowatt hour, but you're really only paying for what you use, and you're not having to deal with the session fee. So yeah, I do think it's worth it. And then, I mean, EVgo, like I said, I give them a lot of grace, because 8, 9 years ago, they were the reason I was able to go full electric, even having to make regular, 1,000-mile trips over the weekend. They were what allowed me to do that. They were what allowed me to make a lot of my longer distance trips that people didn't think were possible, right? Didn't think that a non-Tesla EV could even drive to Vegas 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Clearly you could, right? But EVgo was a large part of that happening. So I do kind of have a soft spot for them, but at the same time, also, just being perfectly blunt, I think one of their weakest aspects is their billing. Like I said, session fees, in my opinion, there's just no call for them anymore. And then all of these different plans, they're confusing. And then you stack on top of it things like EVgo Extend, where, it's kind of like an out of network where now your discounts don't apply anyway, right? So even if you have a special rate, you don't get it. And then in addition to all of the different membership rates, all the different promotional rates, maybe you have session fees, maybe you don't. Now you throw on top of that, they also have time of use pricing. Yeah, I think EVgo's pricing alone, I will say this, is a mess. And I think they've made a lot of improvements. They've made a lot of steps forward. But this is still, I think, maybe single biggest criticism of EVgo at this point is how they set up their billing. They're making progress everywhere else. They're improving their hardware. Anything beyond this, I feel like, is either, nitpicking or, they've kind of chosen the place in the market where they want to operate, which is primarily as a metropolitan-based charging network with a smattering of chargers along some travel corridors, and then EVgo extend for everything else, like a Pilot Flying J or whatever. So I think the one thing I think they do need to work on is just simplify simplify their payment and their billing. I know, like, Tesla is pretty new to the game with this, but if you look at them as an example, they, for their non-Tesla customers, they basically have two tiers. Are you a member or are you not? And so it's really simple. Are you a member? Are you not? Are you paying us $13 a month, or are you not? And I think EVgo could maybe take a lesson from that. Electrify America kind of does the same thing. Are you a member or are you not? And then just keep it simple. And then like I said, time of use is a big thing already, and that's already confusing enough. So throwing on like 4 or 5 different memberships, not counting promotional memberships, not counting, and then of course session fees, things like that. It's just unnecessary. So hopefully EVgo can clean that up. But I did want to share this because, like I said, I do feel like if you own a GM EV and you potentially could use EVgo from time to time, I think this is a good deal. I think it's on par with their basic EVgo Plus $699 a month contract. So anyway, let me know what you think. Do you use EVgo? Have you had any experiences with EVgo? Do you want me to feature them a little bit more? I know I've kind of shown them here or there, but I think there's, some California perspective on it that I haven't shared yet. So maybe I'll do that in the near future. So as always, thank you for watching.